Hey guys, it's Caben from True Champion Gaming, and today we have a pretty exciting one. We have Overlord Arisanna. So this is a deck idea that I don't think anyone else has really publicized at the very least. I don't think a lot of people are messing around with it, to be honest. It was a pretty off-the-wall idea that I had, and it turned out way better than we expected, so we wanted to do a deck profile on it. I'm going to do a short disclaimer because I know there's a lot of really hardcore Arisanna enthusiasts, and you might have been really excited to see us post a video about it. No, this is not a Ascent top 8 level competitive deck. I do think this actually could win at locals pretty easily though. We have tested it against some really meta decks like Tristan and Sylvie, and it has taken some games off of them. So definitely really cool though, and I think this is a really fun and unique idea, so we wanted to share it with you guys, and it does work, so, well, kind of. Let's go ahead and go into the deck profile. First up, we have Fragmented Spirit of Water. This is really important because we have a lot of like floating memory, mill kind of S cards, and we also need to see some certain cards really early. And there's also, we need to draw the Overlord and like manufacture cells and stuff like that. So we don't want to mill those out. Best to glimpse those into our hand at the start. So we run the Fragmented Spirit. The nice thing is that there's not really like a lot of 7-hand combos that you need to do like right away. You know, Fire's famous ones are like Stalwart, Cremation Ritual, and stuff like that. We don't really have those in this deck to try to do, so the temporary card limit doesn't hurt as much. You do get your Spirit Fragment as well, so once you do get to 3, you'll be able to draw your card back. This is actually really nice because in Arisanna you can gather when you're level 1 and level 2, so it's actually pretty easy to get to level 3 by like gathering one of the things like Mana Root, for example, getting this off your level 1, and then popping it when you're level 2 and getting your draw card and such. And there's actually a couple reasons why you might want to pop this as well. So it actually works really well, and it has more synergy as well. There's an Interceptor in the deck that needs Phantasias to gain Intercept. So having this out earlier lets you get that Intercept more as well. So Arisanna level 1, finally get to play with the Cleric Chick. So on enter, gather twice. It'll unlock some good class bonuses as well. Pretty standard. Gathering is what will let you get these tokens. There's 6 different ones. They're all pretty much meaningless. You're not really going to use their effects very often. Arisanna level 2, you'll get to gather twice again. And then she has a really important effect that at the beginning of your end phase, you may sacrifice 2 herbs with the same name if you do draw cards. So if you get lucky with your rolls on level 1 and level 2, you might be able to gain a card back. It's really powerful in the water version as well because you're almost exclusively using floating memory that you milled to level up. And so it's actually gonna feel like you're leveling up for free and then drawing cards off your level up. So it can be really nice. And then we have Arisanna level 3 Lucent Arbiter. This is the Arisanna that I think actually can like win games, to be honest. This is a really important card because everything in Grand Archive is usually a 2 or 3 cost. The majority of cards are like that. Her effect is actually a lot stronger than it might seem on paper, and this is one of the only ways, I think it is actually the only way to interact with Tristan's unstoppable combo kill. So for those of you that might know or might not know, Tristan, you get a Korhazi Outlook out, you use its effect, make your opponent not be able to activate any cards, and then you go all in with a huge Shadow Strike once they have no interaction, and there's not really a way for them to stop it, right? Like it gets around taunts, interceptors, all that kind of stuff. Arisanna, this is not an activation, this is just an effect. And so if they go Outlook, remove, whatever, stop you from playing cards from your hand, and then they go all in with a huge prepped Shadow Strike, which they have to prep on card activation, you can then just tap, hopefully flip over a level 2 or a 2 cost on the top of your deck and just stop their lethal swing. So really important for that. Can also hard negate Storm Slimes. But the reason that we are in Arisanna is because this can help stop any interaction that they might have with your Overlord removal as well. So really important to stop the interactions that might be killing you, but also interactions that might get rid of your Overlord because he has a very expensive cost to bring out. So you really want to protect him once he's on the board. So I actually really big fan of Arisanna right now. Lucent Arbiter, I should say. Then we have the Cosmic Astroscope. This is how you're going to guarantee basically the negates with Lucent Arbiter. So you go level 3, then you bring out the Cosmic Astroscope, and now you're not just blind revealing off the top. Whenever your opponent activates a card that you're pretty sure you want to negate, you just go tap, glimpse 3, hopefully put the card that matches the cost on top, and then negate with Arisanna. So really important card there. We have a Scepter of Lumina. This is not played in the standard way that Scepter is usually played. You're not going to be going this before level 1 and then trying to deal a bunch of damage with the level up damage. This is mainly in there for if you just happen to have 5 cards in hand that you don't really want to play because you're a more in a reactive deck. And you have a floating memory, which happens pretty often that you're willing to spare. You can just literally bring this out, paying 1 floating memory, and then draw 2. So that's just really, really good draw. A lot of the cards in here are just for draw. So we have Wand of Frost. Same thing if you have an extra floating memory. This can just be a little bit more defensive cards if you need that over card draw. And this is also really important for things like the Tristan matchup. If they're just trying to swing with Dagger, you can pop Wand of Frost, make their attacks hit for 0, and then that way their shadows can't hit either. So you're actually stopping like 5+ damage with just this one card that is also replacing itself. So really good interaction there. We're running the worst Divine Relic that's printed, Mercurial Heart. So this is in here because we have enough card draws in other ways that we don't really need GCR, and there's no utility for Grail here. So we're running Mercurial Heart basically just because of this little word right here, Power Cell. So when we talk about our win condition, Overlord, you'll see why this is necessary. This is just basically a free Power Cell. That's all it's really in here for. It can give an automaton buff counters. We do run those, but don't get caught up on that. And then another really good card for the deck is Backup Charger. This card is seen play in every new deck coming out from this format, going from $3 card on release to I think sitting at $35 right now. People have really started to realize just how important this card is and how generic it is. What's really nice is that you actually are going to use that Power Cell that it generates as part of your win condition. So this Backup Charger is like literally the best card in the deck and the most synergistic. We have one Wind Resonance Bauble. The reason for this is that Wind decks are still pretty popular in the format, and Wind Allies is going to be a deck that applies a little bit more pressure to you faster than most other decks. And so you're going to want to be able to just kind of have a generic draw card so that you can keep up with like Floodgates and stuff like that. So that's the reason for Wind Bauble and no other colors. We have Worn Diary, so we don't have enough colors, or we don't have enough spaces for both the other colors of baubles, and this is a very, 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 very slow draw card, but it is a guaranteed draw card. So this is usually going to take you 2 to 3 turns to actually fully use, but because you have such a high influence most of the time, this is a pretty good card in the deck. And then we also have the Ingredient Pouch. This is just to help try to trigger level 2 Arisanna, and you know, it's kind of weak, honestly. You don't really go into this too much. We're really not trying to get into the gather or the potion side of Arisanna with this deck, but it does kind of fit in here. A really nice thing that you can do is you can fracturize your own herbs, and they can turn into mana rocks, which you also can use for other synergies in the deck, and then just keep gaining influence that way for free, basically. So a quick word from me about some really important stuff, and then we're gonna get into the main deck. Hey guys, don't forget to go check out our Patreon, linked in the description below. If you've been liking the YouTube content, we have a lot more content on Patreon. We make sure to load up the content over there and make you really feel like the money that you're helping support us with is worth it. Also, to help support us, please use our TCG player affiliate link in the description below. It comes at no cost to you. It just gives us a little bit of a kickback if you use our link. We also have a way for you to save money. If you use code TRUE5, all one word, at dragonshield.com, you are going to save 5% off your order and also help us make a little bit of money for our channel to keep upgrading camera equipment and all that stuff. We also have AMB pre-orders up live on our website, also linked below. Go check out that description. There's so many links, so many cool ways to interact with us, to save money, to get ready for the next set. So we have a mega bundle deal up right now. You can get a case as well as one of each starter deck for a really killer price. We try to be super competitive out there, and we appreciate all of your support. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's talk about the cool cards of the list. So first up, we have Overlord MK3. I know a lot of people really like this card. A lot of people have tried to make it work. It is a card. You know, like it is very expensive, man. Sacrificing 4 power cells is really hard. Definitely the hardest requirement that this deck is trying to make. If power cells were easier to create in this deck, I actually legitimately think that this could be a tier 1 deck, like in the meta. Water Cleric does have some synergies, some ways to technically make like unlimited power cells. And also Arisanna has a lot of really strong cards, but it kind of lacks a win condition. And so we're trying to mash those two together. So we have the Overlord. This has Intercept, Spell Shroud, Steadfast, True Sight. You'll also be able to banish automaton cards and put buff counters on it and draw cards, which is another really nice reason to go into water and mill and like kind of like get that effect rolling and all that stuff. But there's a couple of really important things about this card. A, it can still be interrupted by cards like Dream Fairy and such, and it definitely can be removed pretty easily. Another reason that we went Arisanna, like I said earlier in the video, you can, stop a Dream Fairy from being played with your leader effect once you're level 3 and all that kind of stuff. The other big thing is that this does not have Vigor, so it's a little unfortunate. And also another reason why we went Water Cleric is because you really do want to be swinging with this because it's your only win con, but it is sacrificing a lot of defense. So Water Cleric does have a lot of defense naturally, so hopefully you're able to swing with this, apply pressure to them, and then live off of the cards in your hand. So no Vigor and being able to be easily removed are definitely some downsides. And like I said, that sacrifice 4 power cells can be a really big cost sometimes, but overall it does work sometimes. We also have 4 manufacturer cells. So these are the only normal cards that we run in this list. We're not actually even running dungeon guides. It's really important to keep a high water count in the deck list, and we'll get onto why later. This is the really good way to make power cell tokens. It's 2 cost fast, so that's a really good cheap way to do it. And you can also draw a card if you summon an automaton, or if you have an automaton. So this is really fantastic. This is an automaton card as well, so you can banish this with Overlord at the end to gain a buff counter and draw a card. Really good synergy there. Then we have 3 Tide Diviner. We have a lot of floating memory in the deck. It's almost half the deck is floating memory, so we have a myriad of different ways to self-mill, Tide Diviner being a really standard good one. Then we also have 3 Fractal of Rain, a card that you'd really like to see in the beginning of the game. One of the reasons that we run that Fragmented Spirit, you're mainly looking for either this card or Cell Converter. This is how you want to start the game. Then we have 3 Torrential Blast. So this is actually a really good card in this meta, I think. You can get rid of things like Ominous Shadow tokens in the late game because you're going to be dealing like 20 damage to them. You can also get rid of really sticky things like Ethereal Spirits. I've seen Ethereal Spirits get as big as like 6/6s, 7/7s, and there's really not much in the game that can kill that, especially with the stealth and everything. But a Torrential Blast at that point of the game is usually enough to do it. So this card is really good at dealing with things that most decks can't, and then also that self-mill is really good in this deck as well. Then let's get into the floating memory engine. So Primordial Ritual is really good in this deck list. We have a couple of cheap allies or low impact allies that we can sack off. If you're able to, do a Tide Diviner and then sack it off with Primordial Ritual, you're just getting a lot of value there. So really good card, and one of the reasons that honestly the Water Mill engine is so consistent. Another reason is Lost in Thought. I just played a slime game, this deck against slimes, and I resolved a Lost in Thought for 4 cards 2 times throughout that game. And I just had like 30 cards in my hand, a bunch of defensive options. The game just felt in control for quite a while. So this is a really good card. You do so much mill with this deck, and this is just going to allow you to have the resources to keep stalling out the game. Speaking of stalling out the game, we have 4 Water Barriers, a really important card for things like slime. Storm Slime, you can stop that as long as they don't try to Slime Eruption you. Just a really good card, and it's floating memory. And then we have 4 Fracturize. A couple good utility options here. Like I said, you can fracturize your own herbs, and you can basically just artificially inflate your influence. Really good synergy there. Also really important to use against things like Windwalker Boots for Tristan or Covenant of Thorns for Slimes. So there's a good reason to run all 4. Then we have Cell Converters. So like I said, this is kind of one of the reasons that I picked Ari for this champion for the deck. Class bonus floating memory, 3-drop 0/3. Not something that they really want to kill. It's got a decently sized health, and also putting floating memory in the drop isn't something that they're looking forward to. At the beginning of your end phase, you summon a power cell token rested. So the nice thing is that you play this, you are getting a power cell token, right? Like, they can't really interact with that much. If they try to Zephyr it away, it's still going to come back. It's not an on-enter, so they can't stifling trap it. It's really hard to stop that effect from happening. So just by playing it, you're getting your power cell, one of the 4 that you need for MK. And then if they kill it, you got a power cell, you got a floating memory, and you stop 3 damage from coming at you. And if they don't kill it, then you're going to really quickly get to your MK. Also, it's important to know that Cell Converter doesn't have to be like awake for this effect or anything. So if you're sitting okay on power cells, you can basically just turn this into a 3-drop 2/3. He'll replace the power cell every single turn that you could just sack and make him a 2/3, swing, try to kill something, and then at the end phase you get another power cell. So really, really good card there. Like I said, one of the cards that you're going to be trying to get in your starting hand with the Fragmented Spirit. Next, we have Awaken Deacon. This is a class bonus cleric floating memory, so it fits into our floating memory package. And as long as you control 2 or more Phantasias, Awaken Deacon has Intercept. It's a 2-drop 1/3, really good stats there. With Intercept, you know, not many things have Intercept with 3 health until you start to get into like a lot higher cost than 2. So you have your Spirit Shard from just summoning your spirit out, and then if you fracturize one of your herb tokens or something else, that'll also count as a Phantasia. So it's actually fairly easy to get that Intercept online, and it's just a really good defensive card if you need it. Then we have 4 Refracting Missiles. This is really nice to deal with things like Sadie, honestly. You have ways to do fast damage with this and the Self-Mill card that we talked about earlier. So you have some fast speed damage to like allies mostly is where you're going to want to use it. And being a non-class bonus floating memory, just generic floating memory, is really nice as well for like early mills. So this can get pretty high if you fracturize your own stuff. And then you also have more fractals, the Fractal of Rain in there as well. So you can get Refracting Missiles onto 2/3 pretty easily. Then we have 4 Frostworm Paladin. I kind of actually don't like this card that much. You do need it for pressure. Frostworm Paladin's obviously one of the best water cards in the game. However, you know, it feels a little less synergistic with this deck. It's pretty easy to Lost in Thought, banish floating memory for a card draw, so you're not really like gaining that from the Paladin. I don't really like playing this card when I see it, but it is really good. It'll help you fight like wind allies and all that kind of stuff, or just any other generic little small allies that are trying to chip damage you in a lot. It does really, I should stop talking about this. It is a really good card. I just kind of don't like it for some reason. Then we have 4 Revitalizing Cleanse. Like I said earlier, you can get to a really insane influence with this deck, and you only run 8 non-water cards in the main deck. So just a really good card, super good defensive. It draws you a card. You know, lots of things that you do in this deck are going to replace themselves. Then we have, speaking of replacing itself, 4 Cilan Decrees. No Frostbind, no Water Cleric Flash Freeze Negate or whatever that card is. Cilan Decree is going to really check all the boxes. It's card activation negation, it's defensiveness with like stopping attacks, and it's replacing itself. Like everything that this deck wants to do, this card is doing. And then we have 3 Conjure Downpour. So another really good defensive card that Cleric has that also replaces itself again. So mainly good against water allies, or wind allies, sorry. But you know, we really want to have a huge like mill engine and automaton engine and stuff like that too. So hard to find the space for 4 of them. But that is the deck list, guys. I don't have a physical sideboard built, but if you go check out the description, there is a Sylvie deck link for this entire deck. And if you go look at the sideboard, I left like 40 cards in the sideboard just because there's so many options, and I kind of wanted to let you guys see what other cards I was thinking might fit into this deck in case you want to make any main deck changes. When I first built this deck, I had like 180 cards in my main board, and so it was really hard actually to cut all the cards out. So plenty of options over there on that deck link. Thanks guys so much for joining. A little bit more of a casual video. We'll probably have a competitive deck profile coming up next for you guys, but this is actually a lot of fun to play. It's super unique. I think it's a really cool thing to see in the Grand Archive world. So until next time, peace.